City Council is allowing City Manager Mike Mathis to stoke white resentment against black citizens to pass a property tax. I say this because of a combination of several things. The city manager's community-oriented policing report, the COP report, blaming blacks for the need for more policing. Sergeant Fox's Columbia Business Times articles blaming blacks for needing more policing. The Milio report, touted by CPOA and Chief Burton in a press release as blaming blacks for needing more policing. The city manager and Sergeant Fox and the CPOA all blame blacks in Columbia's arguments for no need for a guardian mindset, but for a warrior mindset. See Sergeant Fox's most recent Columbia Business Times article. No need for anything but more cops. We don't need community-oriented policing. We need more money for more cops because of blacks, per Mathis and Fox's COP report. And finally, there's no racial bias against blacks per Milio's report but there's no honest rebuttal for CPD's racial profiling against blacks because blacks, they say, use the fallacious Milio report, commit more crimes. The VSR work session on August 23rd included a CPOA presentation based on the Milio report, which is based on, one, arguing essentially that racial profiling is necessary because blacks and whites in Columbia are different and blames blacks of having more warrants and committing more crimes, which of course is based on cyclical reasoning. If the population that is over-policed and issued more warrants has more warrants, Milio, and hence the CPOA and Burton, who backed this report, does not include that the neighborhood is over-policed, but rather chooses to ignore the effects of systemic racism and say African Americans must continue to be heavily policed. Milio switches back and forth between the term racial profiling and racial bias, as if he recognizes no difference. Why is it important to know the difference between racial profiling and racial bias? Because the VSR, as Councilman Thomas has noted, is data and not analysis, and the data most definitely reflects profiling. Bias is a separate matter, which we could only discuss in the context of incidents and not on generalized data. RMF has never focused on behavior of individual officers, which is the arena of bias. Rather, we have consistently for 3 years focused on profiling, which must be considered given the consistent and worsening racial disparity indices for 17 years across a myriad of categories. Why are the city manager, Sergeant Fox, and CPOA all blaming blacks in Columbia? Well, one thing they all have in common is this: they call for more money for more cops. The call for more cops, again, is based on our circular logic. Blacks have more warrants stopped by CPD, which is a direct result of systemic racism, which even Milio argues those disparities are likely due to accumulated bias against blacks in other spheres prior to interaction with CPD officers. Is this something we should really be proud of? Mathis and Fox are so focused on scapegoating black Columbians that they forgot to respond to this council's primary reasons for asking for a community-oriented policing report. Mathis and Sergeant Fox have delivered a report to you that does not discuss VSR data as stated in your resolution of February 2018. It does not discuss implementation of the Mayor's Task Force on Community Violence excellent recommendations for community policing. Those are completely absent from this report that you asked them to write based on those reports 6 months ago. Instead, what Mathis and Fox have given you, along with CPOA's use of the Milio report, is scapegoating our black citizens. If City Council accepts this community-oriented policing report from Mathis and Fox and allows CPD to align with the Milio report, City Council is allowing Mathis to stoke white resentment against blacks to pass a property tax.